Hello, my name is Rick Houston, and welcome to the Scene Vault Podcast, your source for all things NASCAR history. Presented by Las Vegas Motor Speedway, America's racing showplace.
The first race I ever run was the Grand National race at Jacksonville, Florida. And I'd never been inside of a racetrack before. I wanted a one-letter number because at that time it was cheaper to race that way. I had to buy my numbers and pay for it, and one number was cheaper than two. At the shop, it's just a one-man operation, and he does the racing and I do the cars, and the cars is what keeps us going right now. It's been like that for several years. I don't want to be under that pressure. I don't want to be in one of them situations that somebody tell me I got to do this. I ain't going to do it. I'm going to do what I want to do, the way I want it done. That's the way I've always done it. That's the way I couldn't handle it.
The day NASCAR and all of us associated in any way with NASCAR forget its past, that's the day we don't have any future.
Hi, everybody. My name is Bob Laird. And at one time, I was president of Buddy Arrington Racing Club. I founded it back in 1983, and we ran it until Buddy's career ended in 1988. What you're about to see is a video from 1984. And it was during a fan club convention that we held for Buddy in his hometown of Martinsville. What I wanted to do with this video for our fan club members was to present a side of Buddy that they normally didn't see every day, especially like on race day and Saturdays and so forth. And part of this video, what you're going to see in it is how relaxed Buddy is. We're going to talk about how he got started in racing, some of the other things that have gone on that you'd probably never heard of before. And what really makes this video special to me, and hopefully for you as well, is that Buddy's no longer here with us. He passed away about a year ago, and a lot of the memories we have of Buddy are old racing films, and of course Winston Cup scenes and Grand National scenes and articles like that, but we don't really have something like this. And I hope you enjoy it because it really captures the man who he really was, not just some of the ones you saw on race day.
Good day, my name is Bob Laird, president of Buddy Arrington Racing Club, and we're here talking with Buddy Arrington. He's been in racing now 20 years. He's won over $1 million, and from the response of people out there, he's got a lot of fans. We're going to ask him a couple questions, and does
this irritate you?
You like it? Ready? Buddy, how did you get started in racing?
Well, originally, I guess, I got a Dodge dealership in Rocky Mount, Virginia, in '64. Okay. After I got up there about a year into that, which was in '65, Chrysler was into racing, and they offered me some parts and equipment, and different things, and I said, well, I've always wanted to race, and I said, well, since I can get some parts, I'll buy a car, then I'll go racing. And sure enough, I did. After I bought the car from Cotton Owens, they come in one day with a whole truckload of parts, engine parts and suspension parts and sheet metal and everything it takes to race with, and that's how I got started. And then about a year later, Chrysler withdrew from it, and I didn't. I kept racing, and I think it helped me a lot because I was one of the few that was running Chrysler at that time, and that was at the beginning of it. And then here it is at the end. They done withdrew again, and I'm still running. So, but they're about to come unwound. I don't know what's going to take place. So, I'm hoping we can last through next year or whatever we do next year with the Chrysler stuff, and hoping Chrysler will be back by then. If not, then it'll have to be a drastic change maybe.
Most of the drivers started out in the modified sportsman ranks. You jumped right into the Grand National ranks.
Yeah, the first race I ever run was the Grand National race at Jacksonville, Florida. And I'd never been inside of a racetrack before. When I went in with a race car that time, first time I've been in an infield racetrack. That's when I started.
Did you look at it as financially it'd be more money this way instead of the smaller ranks of, let's say, a sportsman division?
Back then, when you went racing, you was racing. It didn't matter what it was, go-karts, motorcycles, race cars, up and down the road or whatever. You just wanted to race, and that's what I did. And then if you had the few bucks it took to get into it, it didn't matter what you're doing as long as you're racing. So that's the way I seen it. It didn't my first car I paid $3,000 for it, and now if I went and bought a car, it cost me $30,000. So it's going up just like everything else.
Why you started out with the number 5, and then you changed?
No. Number 5 came later. What happened? Okay, I started out with 67. That's it right there. Okay. That's the first car I ever had right there. Okay.
Why'd you choose that number? 67.
That's what they give me. That's what I didn't.
There's no preference to it.
And see, I laid out a year. I forget what. I think I got low in money and I couldn't afford to race, so I quit in '68. Okay, I went back to race, and 67 wasn't available. I wanted a one-letter number because at that time it was cheaper to race that way. I had to buy my numbers and pay for it, and one number was cheaper than 2, so that's why I picked a one-number deal, and then they gave me 5. All right, I got 5, and then I used it a while, and then I didn't run enough races. I went back and quit again. All right, I didn't run enough races that year to hold my number, so I had to go back and get another number, and then I got 67 back, and it was available, so I got it back.
What point in your career did you realize that you were on the same caliber of driving as, let's say, Cale Yarborough's, Richard Petty's, David Pearson's?
Well, when I first started racing, it won't but a year or so that I could run with some of them. Like I've seen several times I run with Pearson and Petty and at that time Cale won't run all the races. It wasn't that big a deal. So you went to the racetrack and you only had 3 guys that run. And the rest of them was in the same bracket I was in. So, but as the time went on, you just kept on adding winners and money and first one thing, first another, and then it got where it now you go to race and you've got 25 or 30 guys capable of winning a race, so it's just like the money situation, everything has changed.
Breaking away from the racing just a minute, you run 30 races all season, or you try to at least, and during the off season, the so-called off season, end of November, December, January, and even these off weeks, what do you do to relax? What are some of your hobbies?
Work. That's all I've ever done. I ain't got no hobbies. I probably as relaxed today as I've been in years. With the picnic and all we're having, and I just blundered around and took it easy and eat and normally I ain't even got time to eat. I'm running around with whatever I'm eating in my hand, and that's it. Like today, I've just took a break. I went to the racetrack for an hour this morning. I'm back here for the rest of the day, and I'd say probably this is one of the. Most of the time, it's something, you go to race, you're in a hurry to get there, and while you're there, you're racing, and when your race is over, every day, the program's over, they run you out at 5 o'clock, all right? You're out of town, you ain't where you can get to the race car to work on it, and I'm not at the used car lot to sell cars or work on the used cars, but we're so tired after putting in a day at the racetrack, you go to the motel and go to bed, that's it, that, to me, every night we out of town is that's it. That's relaxing for me, and that's the breaks I get.
You've opened up a used car business now in the last few years.
Well, I've been in the car business for 10, 12 years.
Okay, you're getting into more full time now.
Yeah.
More than anything.
Yeah. Excuse me.
That has progressed so well that is financially that is where you're making all your money right now. Yet you still more or less breaking even on racing. Is that right?
I'm breaking even on racing. I've had to get in my pocket several times this year. I had a used car, which I always have in the past, but it's got into it more this year than it has in the past. And I've put all of my time that I'm at home into my used cars, and it's really turned out to be a big thing. My used car business is good, although it's a one-man operation, just like racing. And basically, racing's a one-man operation. Joey pretty much takes care of everything here while we're in the shop, and then we have fans and friends and people all over the country where we go to help us out. And at the shop, it's just a one-man operation. He does the racing, and I do the cars, and the cars is what keeps us going right now. It's been like that for several years. And although we've taken in a $200,000 a year last year and the year before, and it still can't make it, but what you don't realize is what it costs to keep these things going. Now, you build a motor, and you're looking at $10,000 just for one engine. It might not even get you to practice, so... that's why the cars is just has to be. It's a thing I got to do, and that's why it's so rough racing with no help. And I can't say no sponsorship, because I've been real lucky with sponsorship over the last 3 years that I've had somebody, not no big deal like $1 million deal, but $200 or $300 or $500 to me is probably the same thing as $100,000 to Richie Petty or Kel Yarborough or somebody in that caliber. So I guess I'm one of the few independents that's fortunate enough to have a sponsor everybody everywhere we go, and I think that's partly because of Chrysler. You know, Chrysler people and Chrysler fans. It's just so many more people out here that I can't even imagine that it is as many Chrysler fans that it is, and probably because some of it is because of Petty, you know, changing and going to something else, and a lot of the people changed with him, but a lot of people didn't change.
Let me see. I forgot what I was going to ask. We noticed a lot of drivers like Cal Yarborough, who used to run a 30-race schedule, changed his schedule to run selected races. He said that the reason he did that was to spend more time with his family. All right, well, how does racing affect your family life?
I know it can be good. It ain't average. It ain't like an average family out here. It's hard on everybody. It's like I say, me and Joey will work all the time. You know, that's all we do. It's all we know how to do. And if we got a situation where we didn't have to do that, I don't know whether they could even handle it or not. You know, that's all I've ever done. And like vacations and trips and things that a normal person would do, we've never done. You know, if we ever made a trip, we made it on the way to the racetrack, on the way back, or on the way somewhere out of town to get parts or whatever. Like, I think this year is the first time I can ever remember Joey going anywhere, you know, for anything like out of town. I sent him to Daytona about a month ago to pick up a new van. I'm going to start selling vans, and that was a trip to him, but he was down there one day and back the next, so he only got to spend one night, but the race car went there. So, my wife and this, that, and the other, I don't know. It's like she works all the time too, so I think it would be a deal that you do, and you set yourself up to do it, and that's what you're used to doing. That's the way you're doing it, and I think that's the way it'll always be until maybe you get so old you can't race, or you can't go, or you can't do this or that, and you retire. You know, maybe that's what that's for. You know, when you retire, it's time to sit down and do nothing, twiddle your thumb. So right now, I know it's not a normal, average family type or everyday living. It's just a deal where it's like going to work. You know, more or less at home or family or whatever. When you go to the house, it's not like being out of town, because you go to the house, you stay here until you're so tired you can't work, and you go to bed. That's it. So I don't know. A guy it ain't no way I could express or explain what the situation is. The only way you'd ever know is a guy could spend some time, you know, a week here, and you say, well, if this is what I had to do, the heck with it, I ain't gonna race.
But that's what makes you happy.
Right. That's what I like to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned Joey, your son, who's been in the racing business since he's been just about old enough to walk, just about, fixing, repairing cars, fixing cars, and doing the work on the race cars. He's been in that crew chief car for what, about 12 years now, 13 years?
Right, yeah. Yeah, I'd say 10, 12 years, yeah.
Well, that's about as long as an employee stays with a driver for, say. Now, how would you rate him now as a crew chief compared to other crew chiefs out there? The Dale Emmons, Gary Nelsons.
Well, he'd be at the top of the line. He could handle whatever come up. You know, like if I quit, whatever I decided to do, if he didn't continue racing and he went to work as a crew chief, which he's never done, he's always been here working for me and himself, more or less. He's more or less a self-employed deal, and it's like me. I've always worked for myself. When I was before I was 21 years old, I worked in town at public work. No, I'd back up. I was not say 21. I said 18. I got a service station. I went in business for myself when I was 18 years old. And since I was 18 years old, I've always done my own thing. And I think I've had opportunities for rides, and I don't want to ride. I mean, them guys are under as much pressure as I'm under, but it's a different type pressure. And I just don't want to be. I don't want to be under that pressure. I don't want to be in one of them situations that somebody tell me I got to do this. I ain't gonna do it. You know, I'm gonna do what I want to do, the way I want it done. That's the way I've always done it. That's the way I couldn't handle nothing else. And then see, they used to taking orders and doing the way that the owners want them to drive and this, that, and the other. And that's why you don't see one guy stay at one place a certain length of time. He's always moving over to the other side of the hill trying to find something better. But I guess it never is better. It's just a situation that they, just like me, I do my thing and they do theirs, and whatever they do makes them happy, and what I'm doing makes me happy. So I don't know whether he can handle a crew chief job working for somebody else or not. Well, it ain't gonna be long before he's gonna have. It'll be one way or the other. He'll have to decide what he's gonna do, because he can't always. It won't always be with me like it has in the past. Because sooner or later, I'm gonna get 20 years. You know, it's a long time, and the pressure has really got with me more this year, 1984, than it ever has in the past. So I might just decide 1985. The heck with it. You know, you take it and finish out the cars or the equipment or whatever, and try it on your own one time. See, and see, that might get him going. He might end up being a Junior Johnson or whatever, you know. So, or I might end up being one. I don't know, but so far I haven't got it yet. So, if a deal come along, that's what I would do. I'd take the operation. I would be a team owner or a team manager or whatever, and we'd probably continue racing with just like we're going right now. And it would be some help involved, right? Like right now, he's doing it all. And it ain't a team racing. That's one guy is doing the whole program, you know. But now let me back up to that again. I'm not saying one guy is doing it all. I'm saying one guy basically is doing it all in the shop. We got one little part-time guy that helps us. He's just a youngster. He wants to race. He's just starting out. He's helped us about 2 months now. Turned out to be real good. And he's more or less in school, and he's doing this as like he's going to school. That's what he wants to do. He wants to learn mechanics, and we give him an opportunity to come in here, and he's just tickled to death. He's doing what he likes to do. So that's been a lot of help to us this year. And we've had some part-time help back down the line, but it has been a time, 6 months or half of a season, that we've did it all by ourselves. You know. But I don't want to go into 85 like that. I'm gonna make a change. Is something gonna have to happen, or we're gonna have to get some money, or we're gonna have to slow our schedule down and run a limited schedule or something to quit working 18, 20 hours a day.
You mentioned money, and let's just take Budweiser for instance, and their association with Junior Johnson. They're throwing in probably a few million to that racing operation. Do you think a lot of that money is being wasted for nothing? Do you think you could take that money, or let's say half of that money, and put it to better use than what they're doing?
I don't know. See, I can sit back and see and say that they wasted money, but they can sit back and they can say, well, no, we're not wasting money. What we're doing is what we're doing to get the job done, and evidently it is because they're the ones that got the sponsors instead of me. So I can't say what they wasted and what not, but all I can say is I'd like to have a piece of what they got and try to go through a season with a third of the money or a fourth of the money that them guys have to race off of, just to see what I could do. I don't know.
You stayed with Chrysler for your whole racing career, just about. You drove just towards about, there for a while.
Just about. I think I had a Ford at Riverside on the West Coast for 2 years, maybe 3 years, something like 6 races.
Do you think that is Chrysler the way you came into racing? As it wasn't for Chrysler, would you have drove a Chevrolet or a Ford back in '64? Well,
at the time, yeah, Chrysler was just easier to get into it because I was in a dealership and they was willing to supply me some parts. And if it'd been a Chevrolet or Ford, it'd been the same thing. I would, if they'd supply me with parts, I'd have had that. So no, I'm, in a way, I'm partial to Chrysler because you can look on my car lot and tell that's all I got out there is Chrysler products and Volkswagen. Although I've never raced Volkswagens, but they're good to me. They make me money, and that's what I like about them. And Chrysler cars the same way. I can buy one of them and sell it, and I have as small amount of trouble out of it as anything I can sell other than Volkswagen. The little 6-cylinder Chrysler cars. I like to sell cars that's trouble-free. I hate problems. I just don't like problems. I think that relates back to racing until we try to do everything we do as thorough as we can, and we sell cars and repair cars to sell the same way. And I found out that Chrysler cars is dependable, used whatever, new or whatever it might be, is anything you can buy to resell, mileage-wise.
In the late 70s, when Petty's and Neil Bonnet, when they were the last ones driving the Dodges, they stopped driving. They went to General Motors products. You stuck with the Chrysler products. Why?
Okay.
Buddy, looking over the shop here, it's immaculate. And it's pretty nice for a driver, independent driver. And it's probably one of the nicest shops around. What do you account for that? How do you account for that?
Hard work.
Is the fact that it's clean, is that?
Well, that's all I do. Every time I walk through picking up trash and sweeping the floor, and everybody works here. There ain't that many people work here. That's part of it. I mean, you don't have 8 or 10 or 15 guys. I mean, I could turn it loose and put 10 people in here, and they don't tell me what it looks like in 10 minutes, you know. But there's nobody here, and when somebody comes in, the first thing they do is grab a broom or whatever pops up. If they make a mess, we get it up. We don't walk through it. Right then and there, it's got up. What you know that you've been into it down yourself, and it's like people coming in to help on this dinner thing we're having, and the guys come in and help. The first thing they're done is probably sweep the floor. So that's just part of the deal. That's part of what we do is clean up before we mess up.
After next year, the Imperial will be able no longer to run the Imperial body next year. After next year, what will be next? What will Chrysler do?
I don't know. I don't know. It's the thing where I think when NASCAR makes another change and downsize the cars or whatever to do, that's when Chrysler decides that whatever, if they're going to get back into it, that's when they'll get back into it. But right now, they're not even selling what we're racing, so that's just real smart thinking on their part that, we don't need to be racing or advertising, spending money on something we're not making and selling. So, they know what to do. I hate that they're not helping them, and they're probably making enough money they can afford it right now, but if they come out with something and we're still racing, and I can get some help with it, we'll be running the Chrysler stuff. And if somebody else comes up with something and helps them with it, it'll be something else, a Studebaker or Cadillac or Chevrolet, whatever it might be. But that's my way of thinking right now. I really done got to the point where I fought it and put up with it, and it cost me money and took a lot of my hard-earned money to keep going with them until I done it as long as I can stand it. This year's going to do us in basically our complete season, and next year we might have enough parts and pieces to run a partial season, but there ain't no way I can run a whole season with the parts I got left.
What's Chrysler doing for you now? They supply you with anything?
Very little. Sheet metal and stuff that they have that they don't have to go out and buy and spend money for. They'll give me blocks. They got blocks, and they got sheet metal and a few ignition parts and stuff like that. That's basically all they got. And they give me that. I ain't been turned down on nothing I needed, but see, I hadn't stockpiled on it. I've just got what I've used and towed up and wore out and needed, and it's been just a small amount of it. So we just hadn't. I hadn't used that much. I hadn't spent very little money on our racing.
The highlight of your career was no doubt Talladega racing, May of '79. Recall your thoughts of that day. What went through your mind?
Well, it's just like it would be to win a race. I've never done it, but it should have been mine. It was mine. If it hadn't been for the gas can deal, it would have been mine, and I guess it was meant to be mine, and it just so happened something happened at the gas can deal just kept me from getting it, and we was fast. We was the fastest thing up there, and we had to race one, and just that one particular incident kept us from it. We was by far faster than anything there.
So you feel in your way that you won the race?
Yeah.
One side note to that is that all the people that helped out in that crew, the majority of them were volunteer people.
Yeah, out of other crews.
Yeah.
I think the gas man, it pulled a stunt on it, whatever happened. I took off. Somebody told me to go, I went, and the gas can was hanging on the car. And then I had to stop. When I stopped, the caution car went by and got me lapped down. At that time, I was in the lap of the leaders and not running the leader. That's what caused me. I forget who it was, but it was like one or two guys out of the crews next to me, and there was all big teams. Like I think it was Gatorade's team at that time, and they was helping do the whole 10 yards, and even some of the Petties come up there. Although they were still in the race, and I was out running them, and we was running for the win. And I think Maurice sent some people up there to help because we didn't have a crew. And part of my crew was there, but not all of them was there. So, just one of them deals.
Yet you won in pit crew competition.
Oh yeah,
that day.
yeah.
So you were quick enough in the pits, except for that one time.
Everything we done was right with that one pit stop.
You recently purchased a couple coil spring cars, which are not like the cars you have now, which are torsion bar and leaf spring cars. Do you feel what big a difference is there, if any, to the torsion bar leaf spring car to the coil spring car?
Well, on the short track, it's just the coil spring car is better because each individual wheel works a lot better on the short track than the coil spring and leaf spring car. But on the super speedway, I'd much rather have a torsion bar than leaf springs, and as long as NASCAR let me use them, that's what I'll run. Even though when we make a downsize, if I can stick with it, I don't think I will, but if I could, that's what I would still use on super speedway.
Drivers are a rare breed of people. What makes them go 200 plus mile an hour?
I don't know. It's just drivers just like ball players and skydivers and whatever sport might be. It's just a thing you do, and that's what makes them do it. I don't know. I'm one of them, but I don't know what makes them do it. What I don't understand is what keeps the cars together. I don't understand what keeps the guy together, but I don't know what keeps the car together. They say, speeds they turn and the things they do. I've never understood it, although we make them and we build them and we get them to stay together a lot of times. I don't know why, how. The speed and the RPM and things they turn and do. It's always been amazing to me how it happens.
Explain to the fans how you set a gearing ratio for a certain track. Let's say a short track such as Martinsville compared to a super speedway such as Daytona.
Well, you set up RPM and you have to gear according to how many RPMs you want to turn. That's just if you want to turn 7,500, you put the gear in it until it turns 7,500. If you want to turn 8, you put it in until it turns 8. That's what you do. Like at Daytona, you'll use a 330 gear, and at Arrington, you'll use a 6 or 620. That's the difference.
So there's different gears for different tracks.
Yeah. It ain't a deal where a lot of race fans think to change gears, make it run slower or make it run fast. You run it high gear, and you put your gear ratio in the rear.
From the following you have outside, it makes you wonder that what if, let's say you had the big money behind you. Maybe the following would be even greater than what you had. You have a lot of people coming around here to help out today. Where do they all come from? Are they all just friends? Or?
Race fans, yeah. They come from everywhere. They just come from all over the country. It's, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, Virginia, South Carolina, North Carolina, everywhere we go. Where they're from. I don't know how far. I'd like to know how far the first to come, here for this deal, but it'll be, way on the way. Like I know some people here from Michigan, and some people here from a bunch of your people here from Pennsylvania, and it's just they come from everywhere.
If there's anything you could change when you first started, what would it be? I wish we could. I've done it. I either look up on a deal or money deal, and that's the only thing I hate that I hadn't accomplished is get a deal to see what we can do with money. I know what we can do without it. I want what we can do with it. Would that keep you in racing a few more years?
Yeah, it'd have to be a deal where it would be enough involved to get away from everything but that. I just couldn't handle two deals, two businesses. Right now, the used cars are paying my bills. The racing ain't. I just ain't going no further until something changes. I get something to pay to make ends meet on the money in it. But if I got a deal, it'd have to be enough deal and make it worth my while that I could drop the cars or whatever. It'd have to be enough to guarantee me a deal for say 3, 4, 5 year contract deal. I wouldn't take a deal for just a year. I want to drop my used car business for a year contract deal.
Buddy, we'd like to thank you for talking with us today, and best of luck tomorrow and the rest of the year.
Thank you. I'm glad we got this opportunity to do. I wish I had more time, but the way the people's coming in at this dinner thing we're having, I believe we all better get him and try to handle some of this traffic.
Thank you.